Okay, so this video is going to be about some questions that you have on RSA crypto system. So this is a RSA follow-up class, and obviously I'm going to assume that you already know how RSA crypto system works. Okay. Alright, so in RSA crypto system we basically needed two prime numbers P and Q, which is another prime. Alright, then we generate a number n, which is basically the multiplication of P and Q, and also we calculate phi n, which is nothing but P minus 1 times Q minus 1. Okay. Alright, then we would choose a number E such that GCD of E and phi n will be 1. Okay, that's how we are going to choose E. And also now we are going to calculate D, which is nothing but the inverse of E modulo phi n. Okay, so alright, now we can choose our two keys. The first key is going to be basically, which is going to be E. This is our private key, and the second one is going to be D and N. So this is our public key. Okay, and also this E and D, they can be replaced by each other because they are inverses of each other. Alright, so you can basically replace E with D and D with E. That doesn't really change the answers that you're going to get. Okay, alright, so now let's have a brief look at how this crypto system works. Let's say we have Bob here, and he has a document that he wants to securely send to Alice. Okay, so what he is going to do, he will apply his private key here, and Bob will generate both the keys. All right, so he will apply his private key E here, encrypt this document, and send this encrypted document to Alice. Okay, here is Alice. All right, so Alice already had the public key, which consists of D and N, so he can simply apply that key and decrypt this document. Okay, all right, very well. Okay, so let's say when Bob transmitted this public key to Alice and also the secure document, somehow an intruder got both of them. Okay, so here we have an intruder, so he got this locked box, we shall say, and he also had the decryption key, which consists of, sorry, not E, D and N. Okay, so what he can do, he can decrypt this document and get his hands on it. Okay, so the intruder can only do this thing also. Okay, so he can only decrypt this document. But let's say our intruder wants to pretend to be Bob and send a message to Alice so that Alice does not understand that it's coming from an intruder but not Bob. Okay, if our intruder wants to do that, he cannot do that basically, because for that he needs to have access to this private key, which Bob did not share to anyone. So this private key is very secure. Okay, so this is the digital signature of Bob. Bob can digitally signature a document, and by that I mean he can encrypt it with his private key and send it to someone else. Even if the intruder got his hands on this encrypted document and also the public key, even after that intruder cannot try to pretend to be Bob, because for that he needs to have access to that private key. Okay, so that is the added security for this private key and public key crypto system. Okay, all right, so that's the benefit here. Okay, now let's try to break the code. Okay, let's say our intruder has two information here, D and N, which is the public key. Okay, now let's try to generate the private key from these two information. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, so all right, So we need to generate E, which is basically inverse of D modulo phi n. Okay, is that visible? Okay, I will write it here. Inverse phi n. Okay, so we know what D is, and we also know n, but we need to know phi n. Okay, phi n is not known to us. So what was phi n? Phi n was basically p minus 1 times q minus 1. We know n, which is p times q. Okay, so let's say if our these two primes p and q is very big, then n is going to be very big also. Okay, so that is going to be very difficult to prime factorize, or that not really prime factorize, that is going to be very difficult to factorize also. But we are only considering prime factorization because these two are prime numbers. Okay, so this was breakable. From n we could generate phi n if these two primes were very small. Let's give you an example, very simple one. Let's say we chose p and q to be, let's say p was 5 and what else, q is 7. Okay, then we would know what n is, 35. Okay, then it, and prime factorizing n is very easy. We can very easily prime factorize 35, right? We know 5 times 7 is going to be 35 because these two primes are going to be very small, and that's breakable here. So if we know n, that means n is 35, then we can generate phi n. How? We will factorize n, then we will get back 5 and 7, then we can generate phi n. That's going to be 5 minus 1 times 7 minus 1. Okay, that's why taking small primes is very vulnerable for this kind of crypto system. Okay, we obviously need to take primes that is almost 100 digits big or 200 digits big. Okay, only after that the n will not be breakable. We will generate an n that is not going to be easy to factorize. Okay, and you might say, how are you going to work with 200 digits big prime numbers, right? Okay, we can, obviously we can. That's why number theory exists. I have already shown you how to generate mod for big numbers using big modular exponentiation method. All right, so that's why number theory exists. There are different methods that you can work with 200 digits and 100 digits big prime number, and that also secures the crypto system protocol, public key private key crypto system protocol, basically RSA crypto system protocol. Okay, all right, so that's the added security for this RSA crypto system. Okay, so there's another question that you have about why do we need to use the largest block. I mean, why do we need to fulfill the largest block all the time? Okay, so let's show you that. All right, so let's say we have already chosen n. Okay, so all the numerical values for a block in RSA block, I am already assuming what block you already know about RSA blocks. Okay, so all the blocks has to generate numerical value that is less than n. Okay, why? Because we will be performing modulo using n. So if a block generates a numerical value that exceeds n, but after performing modulo, that will be under the range of 0 to n minus 1. Okay, so we will lose the original value of our block, right? So after decryption we will not get back the original value. Okay, let's say the original value was n plus 5. Okay, so can you get back n plus 5 after decryption? No, because you will be decrypting and then using modulo by n. So there is no way you can get back the original value which was larger than n. Okay, that's why we will be taking block size such that the numerical value is always less than n. Okay, now why do we take the largest possible value? Because that's makes our job easier. When we take larger block size, we need to perform a small number of computation, right? We need to perform a small number of computation, and that also increases the security. Okay, if we let's you could take any block size that gives you a numerical value in between this range 0 to n minus 1, and that also includes a block size of 1. That means basically a single letter for a single block. Okay, but that's going to reduce your security, because the larger size of block you have, the larger number of combinations that you can have. Okay, so even if intruder gets the value, encrypted value, it will give him a very hard time to decrypt it. All right, so yes, theoretically it is possible to take any size of block that is in between this range. Okay, but we will always choose the largest size, because that is going to make our job easier. And here comes the very important part. When you choose a block size, you need to make sure that all of your blocks fulfills the size. Okay, let's say we chose a block size which is 3. Okay, and let's say we had a text like this, A B C D. Okay, let's say we had a text like this. So how are we going to divide it? You might say we divide it like this. Okay, but no, this is going to give you some ambiguity. Why? In plain sight you might not think that how can this give us an ambiguity. You already told us that any number that fits within this range can be encrypted by RSA system. Okay, so this number, this is obviously going to fit within this range, so this can be encrypted and decrypted easily. Okay, so what is going to be D? What is the numerical value of D? 0 1 to 3. Okay, that's going to be 3. Okay, so let's say we can encrypt it, and after decryption, let's say you encrypt it all right, and after decryption you also got back this value 3. Now can you tell me any difference between D and AAD? What was going to be the numerical value for this block? This would also generate 0 0 0 0 0 3, which is basically the same as this. Okay, so is there any difference between these two blocks? No. So that's the problem when you do not fulfill a block. Okay, a single D basically means you need to add an extra end symbol. So you need to add 2 hashtag to complete this block, and this will not give you the ambiguity, because now the numerical value for this block is not going to be 3, that is going to be 0 3 and 26 26. Okay, so after decryption you will get back this value, not only 3. When you get back only 3, that means the previous 2 letters were A, because they generated 0, and that's why you got only 3, right? That is why when you choose a block size, you obviously need to fulfill the block size always. If you do not have enough letters, so add some end symbols to it. Okay, so that's the reason behind it.